I'm Dustin, this is Horroritis, and today we're talking about clowns. Killer Klowns from Outer Space is one of those fun movies. You don't have to think about it, you don't have to take it seriously. What you see is what you get, and it is great. It was made in 1988 by the Kyoto brothers and filmed over the course of something like 36 days. This is hands down one of my favorite movies, so let's just jump right into it. So the movie opens up at a busy place called the Big Top Burger, and there we meet Officer Mooney, and we learn that he is just a giant douche who's hell-bent on arresting every college kid he can. So, cut to the top of the world, which is this movie's version of Makeout Point, and there we meet Mike and Debbie, and they are drinking champagne at Makeout Point. I don't think they're doing this correctly. A moment later, an ice cream truck pulls through and interrupts everybody's good time, including a young Christopher Titus. The truck is operated by the Terenzi brothers, who we learn are Mike's best friends from high school, and they try to sell their ice cream to the unresponsive crowd, and failing that, they also try to park with the unresponsive ladies that they've been feeding free ice cream all night.
Take it easy. Keep your shirt on.
Don't worry, we intend to.
So after striking out on both fronts, the Terenzi brothers decide it's time to leave, letting everybody go back to what they were doing. So as Mike and Debbie are looking up at the stars, because they still haven't figured out what this making out thing is, they see a light zoom across the sky. And Debbie convinces Mike that they should go check it out. Cut to Farmer Gene Green, who is played by Royal Dano, who you may know from Something Wicked This Way Comes, House 2, or Ghoulies 2. And he's sitting on his porch reading a book, and he also sees the light zip across the sky. So he determines that it's Halley's Comet and it's crashed into his property, and he runs off to find it, thinking that he's going to be rich and famous.
This is our lucky day. We're going to be rich. Ooh, we're going to be rich.
By the way, am I the only one that's noticed that Farmer Gene Green looks a hell of a lot like Stephen King's character from Creepshow? So Farmer Green trudges through the woods until he comes across a circus tent, completely set up, fully lit, no one around, and he promptly forgets what he was doing and decides to go see if he can get free passes to the circus.
Come on. Maybe we can get us some free passes.
Let's take a moment to think about this. A mysterious tent in the middle of the woods where it shouldn't be, completely set up, completely lit, nobody around. What do you do? Well, Farmer Gene looks for a way in. Honestly, I probably would too. So Farmer Gene's walking around this tent looking for a way in when a hole opens and a net comes out and snatches up his dog. Now once he realizes that his dog is missing, it clicks. Something's not right here. So what does he do? He punches the tent. And after hurting his hand, because it's not really a tent and we kind of know this by now, he decides that if he doesn't get his dog back, he's going to tear the whole thing down with his bare hands.
I'll tear this thing apart with my bare hands.
So he grabs a hold of the ropes that are holding the tent up and gets himself electrocuted. And it's at that point that we see our first clown of the movie. So from there we cut back to the police station where we see Officer Mooney again, and he's dragging in two punks who had the audacity to walk through the cemetery at night with a bottle of wine. And there we also meet Officer Hansen, who also thinks that Officer Mooney is a giant douche. Way to go, Mooney. Way to go. So now we've officially been introduced to all the main characters, well, the human ones. So we cut back to Mike and Debbie, who are trudging through the woods and come across the same tent that Farmer Green had come across just moments before. At this point, Debbie's a little creeped out, and it's Mike's turn to kind of coax her to move forward. So they get closer to the tent and they find a way in right away. So inside the tent they find a long corridor that kind of looks like a maintenance walkway for some deranged funhouse. So they follow the corridor, and at the end there's 3 doors. So at random they pick a door and they go through, and it takes them into what looks like a missile silo with a giant plasma ball hanging there. This is in a tent now, right? Suddenly the whole thing makes sense to Debbie, and she tries to explain to Mike that they're in the shooting star that they were following, that the light zipping across the sky was actually this tent Now Mike's trying to calm her down and they leave the room, but as soon as they do that, they see a shadow on the wall coming down towards them, so they take another door. The room they end up in this time is full of suspiciously human-sized cotton candy hung on hooks and racks all over the room. Now, Debbie's freaking out and she's talking about UFOs and aliens and stuff, and Mike's trying to calm her down, and one way he decides is a good idea to calm her down is to just tear a chunk out of one of the nearby bunches of cotton candy.
Of course it is. Look.
Now, as he does this, it reveals a bloody face, and he realizes that maybe Debbie was right. So then the door opens, and Mike and Debbie hide because a clown comes in carrying another one of these cotton candy cocoons. Now he hangs it up, and he walks away, turns his back to him, and starts playing with this spaceship popcorn machine. So while his back is turned to him, they decide that they're going to try to sneak out. And it almost works until Mike drops his flashlight, gets the clown's attention, so they start running for the door. The clown comes up with a gun and starts shooting at him. However, what it shoots is actually popcorn. So he's chasing them back through this corridor that they came in. They're running. He's firing popcorn at them. They're trying to get away. They get out of the tent, make it back to their car, and drive off towards town. And the next shot we see is of clowns also walking towards town, and that's really where the fun begins. So that sums up about the first 20 minutes of the movie. So now it's time to talk about what makes this movie great. Cue the warning. So there's a thin line between horror comedy and horror parody, and this movie seems to just be able to stay on this side of the horror comedy line. Although calling this movie a comedy seems a little unfair, because it doesn't really seem like it's trying to be funny. I mean, sure, there's physical gags and some witty lines, and it's clowns, of course, but still, it seems like that this is a legitimate horror movie about space aliens who just happen to look like clowns and want to drink our blood through a silly straw. It's not just about how they look with the crazy hair and the white faces and the big red nose. It's about the things they do, and even the things they do are clown things. Although in this case, instead of entertaining us, they're meant to kill us. So let's take a look at some of those things. For starters, when Mike and Debbie are running from the tent, they're firing popcorn guns at them. Now, as they get back to their car, they're covered in this popcorn. It's sticking all over them. And, you know, popcorn seems innocent, right? Until later, when we figure out that the popcorn is actually evolving into Jack-in-the-Box monsters. Also, Jack-in-the-Box monster, that's my next band name. And once Mike and Debbie actually escape the ship, they're running through the woods, they're headed off back to their car. We see two clowns come out. One of them makes a balloon dog. Now that balloon dog is capable of tracking them, so you've got this scene where it's a little balloon dog running around sniffing and barking and, you know, basically keeping the clowns on track. And once they make it into town, the only thing they want to do is encase everybody in giant cotton candy cocoons. In one scene, a clown disguises himself as an entire puppet show to lure in a victim and shoot him with a cotton candy gun.
Oh.
In another scene, some of them pretend to be pizza delivery guys. And in another scene, one of them pretends to deliver a candygram. One of the best effects in the movie, though, is the shadow puppet scene, where you've got a clown there and he's throwing up these shadow puppets on the wall, and all these people they're standing there and they're amazed because he's making an elephant and he's making George Washington crossing the Delaware and all this stuff. And actually the effect looks really good. The computer graphics there, it looks like a real shadow up on the wall. It doesn't look too superimposed or anything like that, until it turns into a T-Rex and eats the crowd. Shortly after that, back at the station, we learn that Mooney has become a dummy for one of the clowns. Now, I don't know if that's a big step up from, like, douche, but that's when Hanson finds out that if you shoot a clown in the nose, he dies a very spitty, flashy, sparkly death. Another clowny death is when they roll up in a clown car, and there's like 5 of them that get out, and they cover a security guard in pies that melt him. But what I really like about the movie and about the clowns is their faces. I mean, the clown faces are so expressive, even though sometimes it's just the eyes blinking or the mouth opening or the ears wiggling. The whole thing all put together, it doesn't look as animatronic as it probably is, and it kind of gives life to the clowns, because we know in real life those aren't real clown heads, obviously, but in the movie it really works and it looks real enough. Another thing I thought was great is there's a scene where Mike and Hanson and the Terenzi brothers are walking through this fun house, and Mike brings up that he thinks that the clowns are actually ancient astronauts who visited the Earth centuries ago and actually gave early man the concept of clowns. Somebody needs to get this on the History Channel. Really, I can't say enough good things about this movie. It's genuinely fun to watch. It's one of my go-to movies whenever I need to pick me up. It's fun, it's bloody, and it's got its own song written by the Dickies. How cool is that, right? So if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out. If you have seen it, I encourage you to watch it again, as always. And starting now, if you click a link down below, it'll take you to my website, and there is an Amazon link where you can actually buy the movie or stream it or whatever Amazon offers if you don't currently own it. So that's it for Killer Klowns from Outer Space. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, get the word out there, and if you want to see more, hit the subscribe button, because I've got loads more reviews coming for you. So until next time, I'm Dustin, this was Horroritis, thanks for watching.